Ever get the feeling that those super smart large language models, you know,
Hmm.
the LLMs we hear so much about, are getting a little too smart?
Mm.
Like maybe they're acing those benchmark tests
Yeah.
because they've already peeked at the answers.
Oh, yeah. That's a problem. That's the problem of data contamination.
Yeah,
And it's been throwing off our whole understanding of how good these AI models really are.
right. And today we're diving deep into anti-leak bench, a brand new approach that's trying to level the playing field.
Yeah. Think of it this way. It's like those standardized tests you took in school. Imagine if some students had secretly gotten hold of the test questions beforehand.
Yeah.
Their scores wouldn't really reflect their true
Like,
abilities.
of course not.
That's essentially what's been happening with LLMs. The data they're trained on sometimes overlaps with the data used to test them, giving them an unfair advantage.
So how does anti-leak bench fix this? I'm curious to see what they came up with.
Well, Anti-Leak Bench uses something pretty clever, constantly updating real-world knowledge. Instead of relying on static data sets, it taps into places like Wikidata, this massive database of facts that's always changing. Did you know they track everything from football player transfers to political election results?
Yeah, I use Wikidata all the time for research, so I know how often things change on there. It's hard to keep up sometimes.
Exactly. And that's precisely what makes it so useful for Anti-Leak Bench. Let's say an LLM's training data only goes up to June 2023. Anti-Leak Bench can identify facts that changed after that date, like Lionel Messi's recent move from Paris Saint-Germain to Inter Miami, and use that new knowledge to create test questions the LLM couldn't possibly have seen during its training.
So it's like testing them on news from the future. That's pretty brilliant. But how do they turn a simple fact into a full-fledged test question?
That's where Wikipedia comes in. Anti-Leak Bench doesn't just grab the updated fact, it pulls the entire corresponding Wikipedia article. But here's the key. It uses the revision of the article that was published after the LLM's knowledge cutoff date. So not only is the fact itself brand new to the LLM, but so is all the context surrounding it.
This is making me realize how much we take for granted when we test these LLMs. I'm starting to see why this is such a game changer. But I'm guessing they don't stop at just simple fact-based questions, right?
You're right, they get a lot more creative than that. Anti-Leak Bench generates different types of questions to really challenge the LLMs. Some are single-hop questions, which are pretty straightforward, like, what team does Lionel Messi play for now?
Right.
But they also throw in multi-hop questions that require the LLM to connect the dots between multiple pieces of information. It's like a logic puzzle for an AI.
I bet those are the real brain busters. So
Yeah.
they've got the new information, the context, and different question types. Anything else they do to make it extra challenging?
Oh, absolutely. They also vary the format of the questions. Sometimes the LLM has to generate its own answer in complete sentences, and other times it has to pick the right answer from a multiple choice list. And to make things even trickier,
Wait, let me guess. They throw in wrong answers to see if the LLM can avoid those tempting traps.
exactly. They include distractor information, like extra documents that aren't relevant to the question, to test if the LLM can stay focused and pick out the right information from a sea of words. And for the multiple choice questions, they sometimes include an outdated option, like mentioning Lionel Messi's old team, to see if the LLM truly understands the updated information.
Okay, this anti-leak bench is sounding pretty tough. I'm eager to hear how the LLMs actually fared against this new benchmark. What were the results?
Well, they tested 12 different LLMs, both open source models like Llama 2 and Mistral, and some of the big proprietary models like GPT-4o. And the results are pretty revealing about the state of LLM development. But before we jump into those, why don't we take a quick break to let our listeners catch their breath? We'll be right back to unpack those results and see which LLMs came out on top.
All right, let's get back to those anti-leak bench results.
One of the most striking findings was that the LLM's performance generally dropped after their knowledge cutoff dates. This really highlights how data contamination was artificially inflating their scores in previous benchmarks.
So even though an LLM might technically be trained on data up to a certain point, it doesn't necessarily mean they fully absorbed all that information. There could still be gaps in their knowledge,
Yeah.
even for relatively recent events.
Yeah.
It's kind of unsettling, isn't it?
It is, and it raises questions about what we really mean when we talk about an LLM's knowledge. It's clearly not as simple as just feeding them a massive data set and expecting them to remember everything perfectly.
Right. It makes you wonder, are we setting these LLMs up for failure with unrealistic expectations? Are we asking them to be all-knowing oracles when they're still essentially learning and evolving systems?
It's a valid point. We tend to anthropomorphize these LLMs, but it's important to remember that they're still very much in their developmental stages. Anti-Leak Bench helps us see past the hype. and understand their true capabilities and limitations.
Okay, so how did the different LLMs actually perform on AntiLeak Bench? Were there any clear winners?
Well, no one got a perfect score, but there were definitely some standouts. As you might expect, the proprietary models, particularly GPT-4o, consistently outperformed the open source models. They have significantly more resources and computational power behind them, which gives them an edge in terms of training and performance.
That makes sense. The models with more training data and processing power would perform better. But did any of the LLMs, even the top performers, struggle with specific types of questions?
Interestingly, even GPT-4o had a tough time with those multi-hop reasoning questions, the ones that require you to piece together information from different sources and make logical connections. It seems that even with all their advancements, LLMs still have a way to go when it comes to complex reasoning and problem solving.
That's fascinating. So they can spit back facts and generate human-like text. But when it comes to true understanding and critical thinking, there's still a gap. What about those distractor documents? Did those throw the LLMs off their game?
Absolutely. The more distracting documents they threw in, the harder it became for the LLMs to focus and find the relevant information. It's like trying to find a specific book in a library with millions of volumes. It's a testament to the challenges of information overload, even for AI systems.
This whole conversation is making me realize how much work still needs to be done in the field of AI. We can't just keep throwing more data at these LLMs and expecting them to magically become intelligent. We need smarter training methods and more sophisticated evaluation techniques.
I completely agree. Anti-leak bench is a crucial step in the right direction. It forces us to move beyond simplistic benchmarks and develop methods that truly challenge these LLMs and reveal their strengths and weaknesses.
Speaking of which, did AntiLeak Bench reveal any other surprising insights about how LLMs process information?
There was one particularly interesting finding related to the multiple choice questions. Remember how they included an outdated option to see if the LLMs were truly understanding the updated information?
Right. Like in the Lionel Messi example, they might include his old team,
Right.
Paris Saint-Germain, as one of the answer choices.
Exactly. Well, what they found was that even when the LLMs chose the correct updated answer, they often still showed a higher probability score for the outdated option.
Wait, so even though they got the right answer, they were still somewhat convinced that the old information was correct.
Yeah.
That's really strange. What could explain that?
It suggests that LLMs might be struggling to fully update their internal models when presented with new information. They might be holding on to those old associations even when they know they're no longer accurate.
Hmm. It's like they're clinging to their old textbooks, even when they have the updated notes right in front of them. Makes you wonder if there's a fundamental limitation in how these LLMs learn and adapt to new information.
It's a question that's worth exploring further. It could have implications for how we design training methods and how we think about the nature of knowledge in these AI systems.
This anti-leak bench is really shaking things up, isn't it? It's not just a new test. It's a whole new way of thinking about LLM evaluation and development.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's a wake-up call for the AI community. We need to be more critical of our benchmarks, more rigorous in our testing, and more thoughtful in how we interpret the results.
So where do we go from here? What are the implications of anti-leak bench for the future of LLM research?
Well, for one, we need to embrace dynamic benchmarks like AntiLeak Bench as the new gold standard for LLM evaluation. We can't keep relying on static tests that can be easily contaminated and give us a misleading picture of LLM capabilities.
It's like we've been using a broken ruler to measure these LLMs, and anti-leak bench is finally giving us a tool that's accurate and reliable.
Exactly. And beyond just evaluation, AntiLeak Bench offers some exciting possibilities for improving LLM training itself. Imagine using these constantly updated facts and contexts as a way to continuously train LLMs, keeping their knowledge fresh and relevant.
It's like giving them a live feed of the world's knowledge, constantly updating and evolving.
That's a great analogy. It could help address some of those limitations we were discussing earlier, like their difficulty in updating their knowledge and their struggles with multi-hop reasoning.
This all leads to a pretty big question, doesn't it? If even the most advanced LLMs are struggling with a benchmark, like anti-leak bench, how close are we really to achieving true artificial intelligence?
That's the million-dollar question. And AntiLeak Bench provides some valuable insights. It reminds us that we're still in the early stages of AI development. There's a lot of hype. But benchmarks like AntiLeak Bench help us stay grounded and focused on what truly matters, building LLMs that can not only mimic human language, but also understand and reason with it on a deeper level.
And perhaps even more importantly, it highlights the need for continuous critical evaluation. and a healthy dose of skepticism when it comes to assessing the progress of AI.
Absolutely. We can't let the excitement overshadow the need for rigorous testing and thoughtful analysis. Anti-Leak Bench is a valuable tool that can help us navigate the complexities of AI development and guide us toward a future where LLMs can truly live up to their potential.
I think that's a great note to end on. AntiLeak Bench has given us a lot to think about. It's highlighted the incredible progress we've made in AI, while also reminding us of the challenges that lie ahead. It's clear that the journey toward true artificial intelligence is far from over. But with innovative benchmarks like AntiLeak Bench guiding the way, the future of AI looks bright.
I couldn't agree more. And who knows what exciting new developments await us just around the corner.
It feels like AntiLeak Bench is really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible with LLMs.
It is. It's a reminder that we can't become complacent. Just when we think we've made a breakthrough, a new benchmark comes along and challenges our assumptions, pushing us to strive for even greater levels of sophistication.
So what does this all mean for someone like me, who uses LLMs on a daily basis? Should we be concerned about these limitations?
Well, I think it's important to be aware of the potential pitfalls, especially when it comes to tasks that require critical thinking and in-depth analysis. We can't blindly trust the output of these LLMs without considering the context and potential biases.
It's like with any new technology. We need to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism and learn to use it responsibly.
Precisely. And that includes understanding its limitations and being aware of the potential for unintended consequences.
So AntiLeak Bench is more than just a test. It's a call to action for the entire AI community.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we need to be constantly evaluating and refining our methods. We need to be asking ourselves tough questions about the ethical implications of our work and striving to build AI systems that are not only intelligent, but also responsible and beneficial to society.
I think that's a great note to end on. AntiLeak Bench has given us a lot to think about. It's highlighted the incredible progress we've made in AI, while also reminding us of the challenges that lie ahead. It's clear that the journey toward true artificial intelligence is far from over. But with innovative benchmarks like AntiLeak Bench guiding the way, the future of AI looks bright.
I couldn't agree more. And who knows what exciting new developments await us just around the corner. Thanks for listening.